Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Tinkering with Tiny Humans. We have both Lainey and Jake here today, and we are going to give you a lesson to explain how wireless charging devices work. And the property that we're going to explore is called induction, and that is how your iPhone perhaps charges by just putting it down on a pad. How this smartwatch charges, even though there's no electrical connectors here, I can put the smartwatch on it and it's going to start to charge. Or even toys. This BB-8 is a Sphero. This is a remote controlled robot, and there's no electrical connectors on here, but when I set him down in this little dock, he powers up and starts to glow. So we're going to talk about induction and learn about that today. And what we're going to use is a galvanometer, which is basically a microamp meter to detect some properties. And what we're going to do is we're going to connect this galvanometer to a coil of wire. And in a previous lesson, which I will link either here or in the description, we learned that a moving magnetic field next to a wire will create a current. And Lainey, would you be so kind as to connect this meter to that binding post? Binding? Yeah, so you're going to put the hook under there and then turn it clockwise. Nope, that is not under there. Here, we'll do teamwork. I will hold the hooky dookie under there and you will do the tightening. There we go.
What does this have to do with wireless charging?
I will show you.
Young, my child. What?
Jake, you connect the hooky dookie. Good.
That was a lot.
Okay, so you asked before, why is it called a wireless charger even though you have to plug it into the wall? Well, yes, you do have to connect it to a power supply, so there's a USB cable here that goes to the wall, but oftentimes we want to have a unit that is completely sealed and doesn't have any connections to the outside, so we want to be able to put this in a swimming pool and not have it take on water. And so by removing any metal contacts from it, we can do that. So it is wireless between here and here, and this guy is wireless between here and here, but yes, there is a wire going to the wall.
Does that mean that it's waterproof?
Yeah, this is water resistant to a certain depth. But what we're going to do is we're going to use this device to show how this wireless charging works. And basically what happens is we are going to beam electricity from one device to the other. We're going to beam electricity today. Yeah, pretty cool, huh?
How do you transfer electricity?
Aha! Yes, we're going to get to that. Don't you worry.
Ah.
So Lenz's law says that if you move a magnetic field next to a wire, you're going to get a current into it. And that is called inducing a current. Here we have a small magnet on a chopstick. Here we have a powerful rare earth neodymium magnet on a chopstick. And we're going to see what happens on the meter when we move these magnets around with respect to the coil. So, Lainey, I would like you to close your eyes real quick. Don't look at the meter. And I'm going to put this stick in there. Okay, open your eyes. So what do you see happening with the meter right now? Is it on zero? So when there's a magnet inside of the coil, but it's not moving, nothing happens. It's at 0 amps. Why don't you pull it toward you and watch the needle?
Oh.
It jiggled a little bit. Now put it back in there and then push it from the center line over. So if we're in the center and I pull it toward you, the needle goes to the left. If I'm in the center and I push it toward you, there we go. Left, right, left, right. So what's happening is there are lines of flux or magnetism that come out of here. And when I start over here, I don't know which way this is oriented. I don't know if this is south or north, but most of the lines of flux are outside of this device. But when I start to bring it into there, whatever side is closest to the coil is going to have the most impact. So I'm going to cause the needle to move anytime there is motion relative to the coil with magnetism. See how that works?
Bigger magnet.
Well, I wonder what's going to happen. So we talked last time about there's a bunch of different things that can impact how strong an electromagnet is. Do you remember some of those features? What could we do to make the magnet stronger in our last video?
Volts.
More coils.
More coils. Excellent. What else, Jake?
Volts.
More volts. That's right. Here we're not introducing volts into the coil. We're producing volts with a magnet. So if that's the case, last time we had 3 things that we were looking at. How strong the magnet is, how many turns, and how many volts we were putting into it. Technically current, but we can only read volts on the meter. So if now voltage is an output, what is another input that we can change other than the number of turns?
The magnet?
Yes, absolutely. So what can we change about the magnet? Bigger magnets aren't always stronger, but in this case, the bigger magnet is stronger. So you saw, yeah, well actually interesting, there's a magnet holding BB-8 together. Yes, there's a magnet inside there, a rare earth magnet, holding BB-8's head on, and when he's decapitated, You have to find the right
You
spot.
cannot find the
Oh,
right
there you go.
spot.
Found him. That's pretty good. All right, so we've got a bigger magnet. Lainey was able to move it about 2 notches in each direction. So why don't you try the bigger magnet and see what happens?
I'm a
What?
plumber.
What? So here, check it out. If it's not moving, nothing happens. So it's still nothing happens. Still nothing happens. Still nothing. It's got a damper in it, so it takes a sec to come back. Still nothing happens. Still nothing happens. But motion causes it to move very violently. And since this one is a powerful magnet, we're actually able to hit it all the way to like 50 in each direction, right? All right, so here's a question though. I'm telling you that this same property is how wireless charging works, but this watch is not moving with respect to that charger. There's a magnet on here that makes them stick together, so I go whack, and electricity can somehow go from here to here, but it's not actually moving. I'm not doing this, to charge it. How do you think it works? Can you think of any other explanation for that? Yes, Lainey.
The energy stuff inside the wire hits is going through, and it slightly jiggles something.
That is a reasonable guess, and that's somewhat correct. Let's hear what Jake's thought is. Yeah, I know. Amazing.
Wait.
So we know that I can only produce current. I can only produce current by moving the magnet with respect to this, right?
Yeah.
We saw that, because when the magnet's not moving, no current. How do I produce current in this device without
I think
moving it?
that well, there are many different types of energy.
Yeah.
Like this is like creating a different type of energy going through here, but we're taking energy from the outlet and putting it into here.
You both are pointing out some things that are correct. So Lainey says that there's some bumping going on inside the wire. And Jake says that we are taking the electricity from the wall and pushing it through here. And both of those together are pretty much what happens. So when we were looking at our motor, that was a direct current motor. But what your wall current is powered with is alternating current, which means that 60 times a second it goes from positive to negative, which is a sinusoid. And we'll put up a little illustration of a sinusoid. But a sinusoid is basically moving current. And even though you can't see it, it is moving from 0 volts to 120 volts, to 0 volts, to negative 120 volts, to 0 volts, to positive 120 volts, to 0 volts forever and ever and ever. So it's basically moving electricity inside of the wire that you cannot see. So we're gonna do an experiment and show you that we can beam wire from a power supply to this coil by using moving electricity. So this meter is not gonna help us for this. We're gonna use our voltmeter here. So we're gonna take our multimeter, we're gonna put it on squiggle volts. Squiggle volts means alternating current. Can we take this here? Good.
Why is it called squiggle volts?
Well, it's not called squiggle volts. That little squiggle right there is a sinusoid. It's a sine wave. So that's what we're depicting with it. Over here, we have a power supply that Jake has, and we have set it up to make 60 hertz and 10 volts peak to peak. But there's also some juice that is lost because this is in a coil, and we won't go into that too much. But right now, our meter says that there is 3.5 millivolts. And there's really no voltage in here. It's just picking up noise in the system. So if I were to short these wires out, it would go to 0. But basically, for our purposes, 3.5 millivolts is 0 volts. It's so tiny that it doesn't even count. It's just rounding error. And we can do our little experiment before and demonstrate that this meter will move based on us introducing a magnet to it, right? So I'm moving this magnet, and we can see the voltage is being produced. Now we've got like 100 millivolts, or maybe 200 millivolts when I move this magnet. So my theory is that since the electricity in this coil is moving, if I drop this into there and I don't touch it at all, it's going to give me a couple hundred millivolts because of that sinusoid. The sinusoid is actually making the magnetism change and making the magnetism move. So why don't you take this, Jake, and lower that slowly into this, and then take it.
Do I have to take it out?
No, there's no connection between the two. So check it out.
Do I have to take these out?
No, the rod helps concentrate the magnetism. There's just an iron rod on the inside. So there's going to be no physical connection between this and this. There's just plastic on plastic. All right, that's the suspense. That's the sound of suspense.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let go of it. So check it out. Even though we are not moving that coil at all, since the electricity inside the coil is moving 60 times a second, it is creating a moving magnetic field. That moving magnetic field is beamed into this coil outside of it, and now we have 300 millivolts. So what we've done is we've created moving magnetism here. We've put the moving magnetism into the other coil. The other coil is picking up the moving magnetism, turning it into voltage, going to the meter and telling us that we have voltage there. So this proves that the same property that we used with a very basic experiment, which is a coil and a magnet that we move back and forth, we can prove that that is how this wireless charging device works. It creates an induced current from this coil into this device, and that's what charges our battery. Pretty nifty, huh?
Does it matter which charger is with which device? Like, does the BB-8 go on this charger?
That's a good question. I would not switch wireless chargers with different devices because the manufacturer probably calibrates the right number of coils in here for the needs of this device. And this smartwatch has a tiny battery in it, and this BB-8 has a relatively much larger battery. So it would probably either not work at all, they wouldn't recognize each other, or it would harm it because it's the wrong voltage for the battery charger. That was a really great question though. A battery that's overcharged could explode, yes,
What?
that's true. And a lithium-ion battery that's punctured can catch on fire and burn very violently. I can show you a video of that.
Exposed to air, then it could explode.
Lithium burns when it's exposed to air. Any other questions, guys?
I still don't really understand how like this gets connected to the trigger.
Okay, so this is all plastic, right? There's no metal connection. So like here we're touching metal to metal, here we're touching metal to metal, but here we're going through plastic. So in the same way that we have a solid plastic shell here, we have jiggling electricity, which produces, this is the receiving side, sorry. We have jiggling electricity, which produces a moving magnet field. That would be like this over here. We have jiggling electricity that produces a moving magnet field, and then we put the receiver, which is this guy, on top of it, and this is the receiver right here. We're gonna put the receiver around it. See, they're not touching, it's plastic on plastic. The coil is not touching. And that causes the moving magnetic field to transfer electricity into the other coil. So in here, there would be a coil as well, and it would receive the electricity. Make sense? Cool. Jake, any questions?
Not really, any help.
Great. All right. Well, if you like that experiment, and that was our attempt to explain induction and how it relates to wireless chargers. Yes?
Isn't there like a such thing as like an induction burner?
There is such thing as an induction burner. So,
What does that do though?
Induction charger, induction.
so Jake asked what an induction burner is, and that's the type of stove that we have in our house. An induction burner has a coil underneath a piece of glass, and when you put your pot on top of it, the coil, when it's changing polarity, causes heat, and it heats up the pan. So instead of the cooktop getting hot, it's actually heating up the pan directly, and that's very useful because it's more efficient. And when you, well, you can burn yourself on the pot, but if the pot boils over, the countertop isn't hot, so it doesn't like get burnt on. Yeah. Good question. So yes, same thing. Induction for a cooktop is the same scientific principle that works for the remote charger, wireless charger. Yeah. I learned that the hard way. Yeah. Okay. All right, guys, what was your favorite part about this project? Playing with magnets?
Yeah. I would say like seeing the needle move.
Yeah, you were able to remotely,
it through there.
yeah, you were able to remotely move this needle by making a current through it using a magnet. Pretty neat. Thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed that, please click like and subscribe. We would really enjoy making some more videos for you. So if you have any comments about what you saw today, any questions or how we could do things better, would really appreciate if you could leave us a comment down below. Or if you have any suggestions for other projects we should try, would love to do them and get back with you. So thank you so much and have a great day. Bye.
Bye.